said that in the first hour. That was brilliant stuff. Wow. It really, really was. Now, Peter, how fortunate are we to be able to get an ask out there and then have what many consider the greatest guest in the history of sports radio to appear on the show? How lucky are we? How fortunate?
You can't be luckier.
You can't be, and neither can our listeners. Because you know why? They get a chance now to listen to the great Jeff Passan, our colleague, our friend. Here he is. Hi, Jeff.
Hello, Michael. How are you?
Couldn't be better. Could not be better. We're getting some phone calls, Jeff, some pushback. Gee, that's a lot to give up. I don't like the fact that he just has 1 year left on his deal.
Oh, shut up. Shut up. I don't even want to hear that. You got Juan Soto. Be happy for 1 day, at least. And for every day that you watch this guy, whose numbers are probably like the closest thing we've seen in the last half century at his age to Ted Williams. How about you just enjoy the idea that for 162 games this year, you are going to see him either in front of or behind Aaron Judge?
Well,
like, just take some time and think about that.
You know,
everyone in baseball wants Juan Soto, and the New York Yankees have him. How fortunate are Yankees fans today? You gave up no dude. Like, Michael King has really good stuff. Michael King has never been a starter for a full season in Major League Baseball. Randy Vasquez and Johnny Brito are back-end guys. Drew Thorpe, I think he's going to be a solid big league pitcher, but honestly, like, the upside there, just because of the fastball velocity, and lefty's a total outlier, upside there is a frontline starter. Did you give away innings? Did you give away bulk? Sure. Guess what? The one thing that the Yankees at the minor league level have done really, really well in recent seasons is produce pitching prospects who they can flip somewhere else to get big league players. You know, they did it with Waldichuk. They did it to get Benintendi. They have done a very good job of getting minor league pitchers who strike a lot of guys out, whose numbers are gaudy, and who they can flip. So if there's one thing they can do, it's produce another Randy Vasquez, another Johnny Brito, and another Drew Thorpe.
I guess it just, you don't know the Yankees fans who call this show. Because Michael and I have been doing this for 20 years, Jeff, and do you think they appreciated all the MVP seasons that Alex had when he was here? When he didn't win the championship until 2009? No, they want to see the chip. I agree with you, man. You should be able to enjoy having some of the best players in baseball assembled, but you know this fan base, or maybe you don't, that unless they win a championship at the end, they're going to look at the year as a complete waste of time.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And let me tell you, fans, Juan Soto is going to bring you closer to a championship than any of the players or the players in aggregate who were traded will ever bring you to a championship. And beyond that, you get a year to try and convince him to stick around and become a New York Yankee for the rest of his career, and to go into the Hall of Fame with the New York Yankees logo on his cap, and to win another championship, because, by the way, he has won a championship, to win another championship and bring it back to New York for the first time in a decade and a half. And you know what? If I have the opportunity for all of those things, yes, I am not discounting that the price was heavy, right? I think A.J. Preller, the Padres general manager, did a really good job in this trade. He addressed, significant needs that he had, and he did so while shedding money. But he also gave up the best player in the deal. And let me tell you guys, most of the time, the team that gets the best player in the deal gets the better end of the deal.
So let's move ahead a year. Again, it's not the Yankees' concern. They'll take him for 1 year and deal from there. But do you think that Boris will look at what Ohtani gets and use that as a benchmark for what Soto is going to start at?
No, I think what Ohtani's going to get is probably going to be even too high for Soto to even consider. Now, if Soto comes out and puts up an MVP-type season and everybody in New York absolutely falls in love with him, and he looks like the prototypical Yankee, the guy around whom you want to build this next championship team. And he's hitting free agency guys at 26 years old. That's the big factor why Scott Boras could say, you know what, Ohtani was out there at 29. He was going into his age 30 season. Juan Soto is as young of a free agent as we've seen since Alex Rodriguez.
Mm-hmm.
And Alex Rodriguez, remember, doubled the salary structure when he was in it. Like, the highest contract before that was $126 million. He got $252 million. So could he make the comparison to Ohtani? Yeah, of course he did. But I don't know that that is particularly reasonable, or that that'll have a whole lot of resonance among the teams that would like to sign Soto, because Ohtani's got two things that Soto doesn't. Number one, he pitches and he hits, or he is going to pitch and he hits. And number two, it's just a marketing factor. Ohtani is an international superstar whose resonance throughout the sport is absolutely unmatched. Juan Soto's a marketable guy, but is totally, totally different. You're not going to make, significant amounts of the salary back through having Juan Soto on your team like you do when having Ohtani on your team.
Is Verdugo a fit for this team forward, or is he just going to be a piece to try to get more pitching?
I don't anticipate him being flipped. I don't know if you guys heard Brian Cashman today, but
Yep.
He said, this is essentially the outfield we plan on going into the season with, but if somebody comes to me and I feel like I can make our team better, of course I'm going to win. That's what any good general manager does, has a plan, executes it, is open-minded about the plan deviating a little bit, but I think this is probably the outfield group you're going to see going into 2024. And look, Ken Rosenthal raised this in a column yesterday. I think the concerns about Aaron Judge in center field are valid. Not because of the quality of his play out there, but I'm at the airport now in Nashville and just ran into a big league outfielder who played both center and the corners for a decade and a half. And I asked him, the Judge thing came right up, and I asked him how much harder is it to play center field. And he said there's just so much more running. Like, it's the sort of thing, he said, where I hope that Aaron invests in his body and in his training the same way that LeBron does. Making that an extreme priority, because, we're talking about, 3-4 months at minimum where he's going to play center field before Jason Dominguez comes back. Aaron Judge, size-wise, Aaron Judge and LeBron James are actually pretty damn similar. They're both big, not just tall, but they're big-bodied, big-shouldered, incredibly strong men. And that sort of thing, carrying that over, the 100-plus games he's likely to play in center field is a really difficult thing to do without breaking down and while maintaining your offensive prowess at the plate.
Here's what I'm not able to process, Jeff, because I have not heard, there's some bad things that you hear about Verdugo in Boston. I heard that Cora is thrilled that he was traded. If you knew that Trent Grisham was going to be part of the Soto deal, aren't the Yankees better as a team with Trent Grisham, who's a plus-plus defender in center field, and Soto and Judge in the corners, rather than putting Verdugo into the mix? I know Verdugo is a better offensive player, but your whole defense is better with Trent Grisham in center.
Yeah, I think, that's not an unreasonable argument. There was also the possibility that the Soto trade doesn't get done. So,
right.
Bird in hand is a reasonable thing to consider. And, you can flip Verdugo eventually if it comes to that. And I think one point that's gotten a little bit lost in all of the excitement over the deal is the timing of it. I think, Brian Cashman's gotten worn out a lot on, from fans on this program everywhere in the media over the last year or so. I think him getting Soto right now was absolutely brilliant. And let me tell you why. Beyond the obvious, yes, of course it's brilliant to get Juan Soto, but when he got him, I think in the next, 4 or 5 days, we're going to know where Shohei Ohtani's landing. And if the Toronto Blue Jays don't get Ohtani, if the Chicago Cubs don't get Ohtani, if the Los Angeles Angels don't get Ohtani, all of these teams, maybe less the Angels because they just don't have the prospects, but especially the Cubs and the Blue Jays, they were all going to be in on Soto. And there was Giants, throw them into the mix. There was a very reasonable thought that one of these teams could come in if Brian Cashman was driving a hard bargain and wasn't willing to give up the pieces that he did, that another team could have come in and just straight up stolen Soto. And so I think it was important to get it done while they did, and I think the price was as hefty as fans think it is because Cashman understood that if he waits around and tries to drive a hard bargain, there's a realistic possibility, even if the Yankees did match up better with the Padres than any other team, that he was going to lose the player. And this is a player you just don't lose when he's within your grasp.
What did you make, Jeff, of Dave Roberts openly talking about the fact that they spoke to Ohtani? Does that mean they're getting him, or do they know they're out?
Well, I think it means he screwed up and wasn't supposed to say anything.
Wow.
How does that happen?
I mean, I say dumb things all the time, like all of us do, whether it's a brain fart or poor communication, between the front office and the manager, or a messaging error, whatever it is, it was said. But here's the thing. It should not be a big deal. I'm sorry, but I understand that Ohtani wants things to be secretive. I get that. Either him or his agents or maybe some combination of the two. I get their desire to keep things quiet. But the notion that teams either have to lie or obfuscate or essentially take away from what should be a celebration of a free agency, what should be an opportunity for not just Ohtani, but for the entire sport to rally around it. I was on with Pat McAfee earlier today, and I said it could be something very simple. If Ohtani goes to Los Angeles and takes a picture outside of the stadium and puts it on Instagram, what's the reaction going to be? As Pat said, it would be on our show. Would be on our show every day. One little picture with a stupid caption, and everybody is going to be speculating beyond what they are because the conversation would permeate just baseball. Right now, it's a pretty baseball-centric conversation, and instead of celebrating Ohtani and celebrating the game and celebrating this free agency, we're talking about a manager saying a fact. And a very benign fact at that. And that is just so self-defeating, guys, and so backward and so antithetical to what baseball should be doing right now.
Where does Yamamoto end up, and what's the number going to be?
I think the number to Yamamoto is going to be a minimum of $250. And on top of the $250, we're talking about a $40 million posting fee. So anything that gets up to like $255, $260, we're going to be talking about a $300 million.
But when you say $250, how many years are you talking about?
I think 7 or 8.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, think about this, Michael. Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander got $43 million a year. Like, Yamamoto getting 30, like low 30s is not unreasonable at all. I think it's understandable. If he gets 35, that's understandable. I mean, you know how good he is, right?
I've heard, yeah, but again, not every Japanese picture that comes over is great.
Yeah, you don't know. I don't. You know what? I understand why we think that way because they're pitching in a league that, while full of talent, is still inferior overall to Major League Baseball. But rather than looking at it through the lens of this is a guy who's pitched an MPB or this is a Japanese pitcher, I want to look at it like this is a guy whose fastball is like 94 to 97 and jumps up to 99, and whose splitter is Senga quality, whose curveball will be the best right-handed curveball in the big leagues the moment he steps on the field, who throws a very serviceable cutter, and who, honestly, from day one, should be one of the better pitchers in Major League Baseball. Like, maybe I'm buying the hype, right?
Right.
But it's not just the hype that I'm buying. It's the evaluators who, every time they would come back from Japan, would text me and say Yamamoto is absolutely ridiculous. And these are when you're getting sent to Japan as a scout, like, you're a dude. Like, you are a high-level evaluator and somebody upon whom the organization really, really relies to bring back good information, because there's just so little of it. You need to get every last whit of information you can. And I haven't heard a single person who saw Yamamoto and came away saying, that guy's overhyped, that guy, nah, I'm not buying. No, all of them. And the crazy part about it is, because of his size, I think the predilection for most evaluators is this guy, I don't want to like this guy. Because they are taught 5'10", 180-pound right-handers are not guys. They're not, they're not stars. There was a 5'10", 180-pound right-hander though in San Francisco for many years named Tim Lincecum.
Yeah.
And that is the most common comparable that I get talking to evaluators about Yamamoto, rather. He's not Lincecum, but he sure reminds him of him.
What will we see the Mets do, if anything?
I think it's obvious they want Yamamoto enough that Steve Cohen flew halfway around the world to meet him, right?
Yeah.
And, they really weren't in on Ohtani. And, I don't get the sense that there's going to be a whole lot of big moves necessarily otherwise. Maybe if they miss on Yamamoto, they hit it to Snell at that point. I don't know how much of a possibility Jordan Montgomery is. I think there are other clubs that like him better than the Mets do, and probably are likelier to sign him than the Mets are. I think we knew this offseason for the Mets wasn't going to be like last offseason. There's not going to be this deluge of big signings, and it's sort of like the in Stearns we trust first year right now. Like, you want to go out and sign a bunch of guys who most Mets fans have never heard of? Okay, David, go do your thing. Through your winning in Milwaukee, we have nothing but respect for you and for your ability to put together a ball club. But in the back of their heads, every Mets fan is like, please sign a star. Please sign a star, because we need something to get excited about after last year was so incredibly disappointing.
Jeff, have a safe flight. I assume you're heading home, and enjoy the holidays.
Gentlemen, same to you, and if we don't talk before the new year, thanks for everything you do, both for the listeners and myself.
That's very nice.
And it's true. You guys are awesome, and I have a great time every time I come on this show, and you guys are the best.
You're the best. Thank you, Jeff.
See you, boys.
Hi. Good stuff. So he just, the beginning, if you just joined us, you have to listen to the podcast. He just struck down anybody who doesn't like this deal with Soto. He eviscerated them. Eviscerated.
And like the
he said at least give it a couple days, he said.
I do think there is something to the fact that, can you at least celebrate the fact you got one of the best players in baseball, and then settle in maybe next week to, okay, how do we fill out this rotation, and how do we look for 2024? But, the Yankee fans' DNA is a little bit different than every other fan base in baseball, and maybe even sports. But, like the conversation we had yesterday is that, fans are going to be thinking about, winning that championship. And this is not the first time that they've landed a great player.
Yeah, but if you want to win the championship, doesn't it help when you get a superstar? So, you can't play October before you play April, May, June, July, August, and September. So you're going to play those
Right.
months now with one of the great players in baseball history.
But he kind of had me laugh. And again, to the conversation yesterday, we are talking about the very vocal minority of Yankee fans. But, you know, Peter, do we talk during the summer to fans who are just sitting back and appreciating the greatness of their team? Or are they just thinking about, all right, is this going to lead to a championship? I mean, they got to see one of the great performances in the history of baseball 2 years ago when Judge was, you know, breaking the American League home run record. And it was, okay, we'll now win a championship. So I think Jeff is kind of speaking how the rest of baseball should look at this deal. But, you know, I understand from having spoken to him for, 25 years on sports radio that they think a little bit differently. Again, not all of them, but certainly the vocal part of the Yankee fan base is excited about this for one reason and one reason only. It's a chance to win a championship. Not to go see a great player play.
Well, and think about the fear that exists here, too, because if you don't get the championship in year one, you might lose the guy who you brought in to get you the championship.
So let me give you a what-if scenario.
Go ahead.
Let's say the Yankees sign Yamamoto, and you heard Jeff just waxing poetic about Yamamoto. They sign him.
Yeah.
They went out and they got Soto, Yamamoto, and Verdugo. Verdugo, to me, is an extraneous piece, but they got Soto and Yamamoto. Do you think Yankee fans would be happy with the offseason? Would they have anything to complain about? Because Yamamoto cost nothing but Hal's money.
Yamamoto would be a different
Would they be cool?
See, that's the difference. Is that, like, when you said about the evil empire, I don't look at them getting Soto as an evil empire move. It's a shrewd baseball move in which they had the prospects to make the deal. If they swoop in and outbid everybody for Yamamoto, that is the old school evil empire that the Red Sox were talking about back in the day. That they used their money and their boldness and their big market to go out and get, the best Japanese free agent we've seen in a long time. Now, that's a different story because that's only money. And what do the fans always talk about? Pay him whatever he wants. It doesn't matter. Get us a champion. That will have a different vibe to it. And then you'd have him long term. So the Soto thing, you're apprehensive because it just puts even more pressure now to win in 2024 because he's a free agent at the end of the year. But, Michael, you remember how many conversations we had. Alex Rodriguez, Peter, you weren't here. Alex Rodriguez is winning MVPs. He's hitting 50 home runs.
But that was after he was. But at the beginning there was no negativity when they got him. When he was winning MVPs and they weren't winning world championships, I got it.
Yeah, but they were also not that far removed from winning 4 championships in 5 years. Now you fast forward a decade later, and they've only got the 1 ring in 15 years, and now the fans are like, okay, great, we've seen MVPs. We've seen guys break records. We want to see now a team win a championship.
So
they didn't appreciate Alex Rodriguez. He was here until he finally won in 2009. He was a villain here.
And the only reason they appreciate him because they don't win without him in 2009.
Right, exactly.
If he was just a passenger, he would have been hated.
And you were talking about going out there and winning MVPs every year. They didn't want to hear it. They didn't care. They would have traded every MVP for a chance at the ring. I mean, that's what's different. So when I kind of giggled to myself when Jeff's like, sit back and appreciate watching one of the best baseball players that we've seen in a long time play. Yeah, that should be how they should look at it. But that's not how a lot of Yankee fans, at least the ones that call this show, think about the acquisition. They think about the acquisition for one reason. Win me a championship.
But that doesn't make sense because he hasn't had an opportunity to win a championship yet. You've got to appreciate the fact that this guy is great, and then if he doesn't win a championship after 1 year, okay, then you could just hose it down and say, oh, it was terrible. And even while Alex was winning MVPs, he was not performing in the postseason. That's why they turned on him. But to have that kind of mindset now, you're damaged.
Oh, I'm not. Listen, I'm not agreeing with them. I'm just saying I lived through this. You lived through it. And it kind of surprises me when you're surprised by it.
I'm surprised that they would not embrace this day.
Oh.
You got Juan Soto. Worry about tomorrow. Like Jeff said, give it a couple of days. Enjoy it. Light up a cigarette. Enjoy it.
Right. And last Wednesday, we took 3 successive phone calls from people saying, I don't know about Soto. He's not a great defender.
I think that unhappy people probably just have speed dial, and happy people don't.
But I also think because of what happened with Alex and because of what's happened with Giancarlo Stanton, can't you understand the fan base being a little dubious? Again, this is not the first time they've had great players, come here and that they haven't won yet. They didn't win with Stan. They didn't win with Alex until 5 years down the road, and it was only the one time when it felt like, and I remember the day that they got him was like, oh, it's not about a champion. Peter, we're going to win 4 or 5 championships with this guy. You know, so that's where I think the damage comes from.
I'm going to hold the Mets' feet to the fire when we get back.
Okay.
We'll see what you think about it. Hey, guys, are you ready to hit a home run with